Hey, how you doing? This is Richard Bennett, Better Tomorrow Incorporated. Last videos I've been making, I did one on pop-up, I did one on change, and the one on change has really got a lot of hits, about 1,013. I'm not impressed with anything like that, but I do want to be impressed with just the message that's necessary for this time. I've been looking at a lot. We look around the country where you got young black men being assaulted by the police, and at the same time, in the city of Chattanooga, which I live, we had some Marines to be shot, and we have memorials for them, and because of their family's loss, and we hate those things that when someone comes against young men in the military. We also had some police officers shot, not in Chattanooga, but in other areas. And we also be having a thing with abortion, homosexuality, and that's just a great number of things that we're dealing with as a country and as people. But then you got the hood story. You got the young black men that are going to jail at an alarming rate. I mean, it's almost like genocide, and getting these felonies, which almost cause them to feel like they're slaves or things like that. So we have a great deal of things that we deal with as a country, and I think that are also a part of change. Change is happening whether we want it or not, positive or negative change. But I also think that even the Bible said to the Jews first. I think as culture, as we talk as a culture, if there's some young Caucasian males suffering, I think from a pastor standpoint, it is all about issue. If it's black young men are suffering, from a biblical standpoint, I think we all should be, involved as well. Hispanics or Asians or whatever the situation is. But also, I think that as a black man, I take it personal that the young black men are going to jail at a long rate. I talked with some of my other brethren of all diversities, and I talked with them about, how do they feel about the young black men going to jail? How do they feel about what's going on in our country? And what I have learned is this Proverbs talks about train up a child. A child can be trained up to be a Ku Klux Klan member. He can be trained to be a black person that hate white people. He can be trained up to be just anything, because children are susceptible to anything. So there's no behavior that we're dealing with, whether it's in the negative or the positive, that was not learned behavior. So I also see that people are very judgmental. I'm looking at a thing today where a woman was being battered, and in the sense of domestic violence and things of that nature. I done seen that on both spectrums. I done seen people have to deal with this, that, and the third. But I've seen some people that just trying to survive. They had to sell crack cocaine and sell weed, and sometimes smoke weed just to cope. But then you have a demographic of individuals that can't even understand that. They think that because a person lives in that capacity, that they can pull themselves up by the bootstraps and this, that, and the other. And that's perception. My wife taught me that one. Perceptions are people's reality. And just because it's your perception don't make it reality, because the reality is only seen when you know the situation of the individual that you have the perception of. And there's a lot of things going on. And sometimes we believe things by God. Sometimes we don't believe that these things are by God. We believe by the law. But this is my thing. When it comes to just really living, I have to have something greater than my opinion, because Jeremiah tells me that my heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. That means that I'm kind of selfish. I'm kind of going to see things my way. I'm kind of going to see things the way that I need them to be, so they can benefit me. But at this point in my life, man, on the real, on that real, it just is what it is. I mean, white, black, or whoever you are, or whoever that individual is, if you ain't about the betterment of people in general, I heard a statement made. It was like, all life matters. That's true. That is true. All life does matter. But with the young black men, I'm talking about the stuff we're doing to ourselves as well. But the young black men that are dying and the things that we've had happen around here, we need to look at all of it. We need to look at it on every level. Need to look at the young person and the officer and the way that we view things. If we don't go back to the very principle, one nation under God, we're going to continue to have mass abortions. We're going to continue to have young men and very adverse behaviors going on both sides of the spectrum. That is going to continue to erode this country. Now, we know that this country's beginnings was not the humble and wonderfulness of things. We know there's a lot of adverse things happen. Slavery, the Indians being massacred. There's a lot of things that went on. But even not looking at the negativity of things, we still have to recognize that we have a long way to go, just as people. And I'm reminded when the Bible says, get the speck at your eye before you get the beam in your brother's. It's easy to reach for the beam because you don't have to be accountable for the beam. Only the speck. You know what I'm saying? And let me say that just so it's understood correctly. The beam in biblical context is yours. The speck is your brother's. That means the situation that your brother is going through, no matter black or white, whatever the situation is, it really doesn't benefit you one way or the other. Sometimes when we have low self-esteem or things like that, you may think that you talking about or seeing something or judging someone in that capacity, it makes you feel good because you ain't got to deal with that beam. It's easy to go over there and get the speck because your brother's situation looks a little bit less than yours, and it makes you feel good when you got self-esteem issues and you can point the finger at somebody. But we all got issues. We all got things we're dealing with. And something, I got some people that I love dealing with, but I don't know what's going on in their household. I don't know what's going on. Just say 20-something years ago, I was a young man that was out here doing the same thing these other young men doing. But say that ain't your plight. Say that ain't something you had to go through. Say you was raised in a good family. Y'all always had money. You still got issues. Your issue may be that you judgmental. Your issue may be that you think you're better than people. Your issue may be that you don't see things properly that really affect change in someone else's life. And that's on everything. That's whether you're living in poverty or whether you're living in middle class or whether you're living in abundance. I'm going to tell you something that I inside do. I'm dealing with Richard Bennett. And I pray that as I find the greater self and the greater being of me, that I can be effective to young people, that I can be effective to real change in our country. And I think it's time out, man. I think it's really time out. And just like I told you in the first one, it's my time to speak because I know it comes from a pure place. Not that I'm a perfect person. I think we use that sometimes too, just as a platform to not feel guilty about things that you can judge. Some of the stuff that's going on around our country, you can't judge it. Some folks, I always come back to that, even the incident the situation I went through last year. There's some people that still believe, whatever they believe, it's true or not. But I was vindicated of those situations. So, to me personally, it don't matter. But the reason I bring that up is just to give emphasis to the fact that this life, it do what it do. You're going to have folks that believe and that don't. But at the end of the day, the Congress and people like that, they use a word called common interest. And my spiritual father taught me, he says, everybody got an agenda. Everybody got an agenda. And for us in Chattanooga and around this country, we need to get an agenda for changing our communities. We need to get an agenda for helping our young black men recognize who they are. That's because I am a black man. So I am partial to young black men and seeing them successful. But I'm just as adamant about the young Asian, the young Hispanic, the young white, young man knowing who we are. But living in America, we know that sometimes favoritism is shown toward one culture toward another. These are the elephants in the room. The Bible says there's nothing hidden that it ain't going to come abroad. So to be a greater country, I think we're going to have to deal with the elephants and not just those that can pay for their voice or their opinion to be heard above those that don't have the means to allow that or have that happen for them. This is what it is, and this is how it's got to be. If we're going to live one nation under God, indivisible, living and just for all, we got to be about that. Other than that, let's stop playing games. I hope that you're blessed. I hope that in this video you find something that gives you some inner peace about where you're supposed to be and what role you're supposed to play in this great change that is happening. Whether you want to or not, God's finna get glory. Till next time, be blessed.